5 दिसंबर 2022 का करंट अफेयर है। 5वें नंबर पेज में आएगी, कंसेंट ऑफ माइनर इज नो कंसेंट, दिल्ली हाई कोर्ट टेल्स मैन अक्यूज्ड ऑफ रेपिंग 16-year-old गर्ल। 7th नंबर पेज पे, द मेघालय गवर्नमेंट decided to capitalize on the liberalized drone rules 2021 announced by the Civil Aviation Ministry to usher in a new era of transportation। ठीक है, तो हेल्थ मिनिस्टर क्या बोल रहे हैं, जेम्स पी के संगमा क्या बोल रहे हैं कि वी फोकस्ड ऑन द पब्लिक हेल्थ लॉजिस्टिक्स बिकॉज ऑफ द डिफ़िकल्ट टेरेन एंड चैलेंजिंग रोड नेटवर्क्स इन आवर स्टेट। टेकिंग मेडिसिन टू द प्राइमरी हेल्थ सेंटर एट Pedal Boda in West Garo Hills districts of Meghalaya is an uphill task. So it is to 5 remote sub-centers under the center. The scene is expected to change on Monday when the center receives a consignment of medicines, vaccines and other healthcare necessities delivered by a customized drone Vertiplane X3 from what is believed to be India's first drone station designed for medical supplies. The success of the concept made the state government work on the Jengjal drone station, scheduled to be inaugurated by the Chief Minister Conrad K. Sangma on Monday. Pedal Boda is one of the remotest areas in the West Garo Hill district. We looked forward to the drone delivery system by serving near about 19,000 people across 55 villages. 8th पेज पे है आर्टिकल है कि हेल्दी सॉइल्स आर एसेंशियल फॉर अवर सर्वाइवल, दे सपोर्ट हेल्दी प्लांट ग्रोथ टू एनहांस बोथ ऑफ न्यूट्रिशन एंड वाटर। एन अनफेमिलियर ट्रोप अफ्रीकन एंड एशियन नेशंस हैव मेड जायंट स्ट्राइड्स ऑन फुटबॉल्स वर्ल्ड स्टेज। द फीफा वर्ल्ड कप इन कतर कंटिन्यूज टू रेज अ डस्ट ऑफ अनप्रेडिक्टेबिलिटी, द नर्व रैकिंग डांस ऑफ द फैंसी टीम्स, बी इट इन ट्रायम्फ or defeat, and the soul uplifting fight of the underdog have all shimmered under Qatari skies. Football remains the greatest sport, and over a fortnight, the ballet between the twirling feet and the ball has caught global attention despite the footprints of a waning pandemic or the devastation of the Russia's war against Ukraine. Qatar has managed to host this mega event with minimal fuss, even if whispers of human rights violations during the construction of the various stadiums continue to linger. That sports cannot be oblivious to the circumstances prevailing outside the grounds was emphasized when the Iranian men remained silent during the rendering of the national anthem ahead of their game. This act of solidarity with the women fighting for equal rights back home comes at a time when many athletes are wary of taking a political stance. The World Cup has come a long way from the inaugural edition in 1930 when host Uruguay emerged as the champion after defeating Argentina. That Uruguay crashed out now while Argentina remains alive is another pointer to supporting evolution. The trope of South American and European nations being football's bulwark is also changing. The African and Asian nations believe that they are here to compete and not make up the numbers. The exposure to the European leagues, the prevalence of a solid grassroots structure and adequate coaching expertise have all combined to lend bite to the efforts of the Morocco, Senegal, Japan and South Korea. The quartet entered, that is the Morocco, Senegal, Japan and South Korea entered the pre-quarterfinals and kept the African and Asian flags flying high. Meanwhile, it is a sobering reality that India has never qualified for the World Cup. Sunil Chhetri's men and the units that succeed them may launch a tilt at football's ultimate championships. The 2026 World Cup in United States, Canada and Mexico will feature 48 teams, a significant increase from the current 32, and whether India ranked 106 will qualify through an enhanced Asian quota remains to be seen. But for now, in a World Cup, with its focus on Lionel Messi, Ronaldo and an injured Neymar, maximum thrills have emerged from Asian and African boots. Even if Cameroon did not qualify, it defeated Brazil and did South Africa, as did Saudi Arabia, which dishes out a similar fate to Argentina during the initial phase. South Korea's incredible 2-1 win over the Portugal, just as a group stage concluded, is the perfect interlude as the World Cup's business end begins. ठीक है। तो अब नीचे अगली नेक्स्ट न्यूज़ है कि सॉइल्स के ऊपर है, जो हमने स्टार्टिंग में पढ़ी थी। ठीक है। तो सॉइल्स हेल्प टू रेगुलेट द प्लैनेट्स क्लाइमेट बाय स्टोरिंग कार्बन एंड आर द सेकंड लार्जेस्ट कार्बन सिंक आफ्टर द ओशंस। Soils help maintain a landscape that is more resilient to the impacts of the droughts and floods. As soil is the basis of food system, it is no surprise that soil health is critical for healthy food production. वर्ल्ड सॉइल डे कब मनाया जाता है? 2022 में एनुअल ऑब्जर्वेशन ऑन 5 दिसंबर को मनाया जाता है हर साल। अलाइंड विद द वर्ल्ड सॉइल डे 2022 with its guiding theme, Soils Where Food Begins, is a means to raise awareness on the importance of maintaining healthy soils, ecosystems, and human well-being by addressing the growing challenges in soil management, encouraging societies to improve soil health and advocating the sustainable management of soil. फिर नेक्स्ट हाईलाइट है कि रेवेन्यूज ग्रू ऑलमोस्ट 11% दिस नवंबर, दैट इज 2022, टू नियरली 1.46 lakh crore. While this is only the 10th such occasion since the onset of the GST in July 2017 that revenues have been over 1.4 lakh crore, that mark has been consistently topped for 9 months now. The two highest GST months received so far, over 1.6 lakh crore in April and 1.51 lakh crore in October, were partly bolstered by taxpayers filing quarterly returns. Discounting periodic spikes in compliance, one can possibly peg the 1.4 lakh crore as the new normal baseline for monthly GST revenues here on. With almost 12 lakh crore already in the GST kitty this year, the government is likely to end up with a not insignificant surplus over its budget. This is welcome fiscal headroom, especially since the central subsidy bill on items such as fertilizers and food grains has also surpassed the budget math and may help the government stick to its fiscal deficit target. On the flip side, however, November's GST revenues are not an enthusing indicator about the state of the broader economy. The 10.9% overall GST revenue growth in November, reflecting transactions undertaken in October, when the major festivals including Diwali occurred, is the slowest uptick recorded since June 2021. November revenues were the slowest in 3 months and marked a nearly 4% dip from October's kitty. E-way bills generation, broadly indicating outflow of goods from producers to the wholesale and retail supply chains, dropped a steeper 8.6% sequentially, perhaps as factories recorded higher downtimes amid extended holidays. One would have expected festive consumption to spike the GST intake despite the e-way bills decline, as inventories were already built up in anticipation. That effect appears muted, and it is quite puzzling that revenues contracted year on year in as many as 7 states including Gujarat and Kerala. Growth in inflows from domestic transactions slowed from 18% in October to 8% last month, while revenues from imports of the goods rose to 20% in November, a possible sign that the consumption recovery remains uneven, with goods consumption by higher income groups seeing a better rebound. December's post-festival GST collections could yield a clearer picture both on the sustainability of the headline revenue numbers and the growth trajectory of the economy. The GST Council, meeting this month after another prolonged gap, must expedite long-awaited action on pending issues to bolster compliance and not lose sight of the larger, currently deferred plan to rationalize the tax rates with a view to spur broad-based and sustainable consumption growth. अब नेक्स्ट हाईलाइट है, द मेन ड्राइवर्स कंट्रीब्यूटिंग टू सॉइल डिग्रेडेशन आर इंडस्ट्रियल एक्टिविटीज़, माइनिंग, वेस्ट ट्रीटमेंट, एग्रीकल्चर, fossil fuel extraction and processing, and transportation emissions. The reasons behind soil nutrient loss range from soil erosion, runoff, leaching, and the burning of the crop residues. Soil degradation in some form or another affects around 29% of India's total land area. This in turn threatens agricultural productivity, in situ biodiversity conservation, water quality, and the socio-economic well-being of the land-dependent communities. Further, excessive use of fertilizers and pesticides and irrigation with contaminated water will affect the soil. with contaminated wastewater are also polluting soils. Impacts of soil degradation are far-reaching and can have irreparable consequences on human and ecosystem health. India's conservative strategy. ठीक है, तो नेक्स्ट है The government of India is implementing a 5-pronged strategy for soil conservation. This includes making soil chemical free, saving soil biodiversity, enhancing SOM, maintaining soil moisture, mitigating soil degradation, and preventing soil erosion. Earlier, farmers lacked information relating to soil type, soil deficiency, and soil moisture content. To address these issues, the Government of India launched the Soil Health Card scheme in 2015. The Soil Health Card is used to assess the current status of soil health and, when used over time, to determine changes in soil health. The Soil Health Card displays soil health indicators and associated descriptive terms which guide farmers to make necessary soil amendments. Other pertinent initiatives include the Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sanchai Yojana to prevent soil erosion, regeneration of natural vegetation, rainwater harvesting, and recharging of the groundwater table. In addition, the National Mission for Soil Degradation can have irreparable consequences on human and ecosystem health, which cannot be ignored. Sustainable agriculture has schemes promoting traditional indigenous practices such as organic farming and natural farming, thereby reducing dependency on chemicals and other agricultural inputs and decreasing the monetary burden on smallholder farmers. Next highlight है, the Food and Agriculture Organization is collaborating with the National Rainfed Area Authority and the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare to develop forecasting tools using data analytics that will aid vulnerable farmers in making informed decisions on crop choices, particularly in rain-fed areas. The Food and Agriculture Organization, in association with the Ministry of Rural Development, supports the Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana, National Rural Livelihood Missions, community resource persons to increase their capacities towards supporting on-farm livelihood for the adoption of sustainable and resilient practices, organic certificate, and agri-nutri gardens. The Food and Agriculture Organization works in 8 target states, namely Madhya Pradesh, Mizoram, Odisha, Rajasthan, Uttarakhand, Chhattisgarh, Haryana, and Punjab, for boosting crop diversification and landscape level planning. In Andhra Pradesh, the Food and Agriculture Organization is partnering with the state government and the Indian Council of Agriculture Research to support farmers in sustainable transition to agroecological approaches and organic farming. Next, there is a need to strengthen communication channels between academia, policymakers, and the society for the identification, management, and restoration of the degraded soils, as well as in the adoption of anticipatory measures. These will facilitate the dissemination of timely and evidence-based information to all relevant stakeholders. Greater cooperation and partnerships are central to ensure the availability of knowledge, sharing of successful practices, and universal access to clean and sustainable technologies, leaving no one behind. As consumers and citizens, we can contribute by planting trees to protect topsoils, developing and maintaining home kitchen gardens, and consuming foods that are mainly locally sourced and seasonal. नेक्स्ट है 10th नंबर पेज में कि चाइनाज मूव्स इन इंडियन ओशन. ठीक है, तो हाउ इज़ चाइना इंडियन ओशन रीजन फोरम डिफरेंट फ्रॉम द इंडियन ओशन रिम एसोसिएशन? डिड इंडिया अटेंड द इवेंट? वाई इज चाइना deepening its role in the Indian Ocean region? Did Australia and Maldives participate in the forum? 2269 the number of the people who tested positive for HIV in Assam since April this year. ठीक है, तो फर्स्ट वाले हाईलाइट से रिलेटेड नवंबर 21 चाइना स्टॉप डेवलपमेंट एड एजेंसी convened the first China-India Ocean Region Forum in the southwestern Chinese city of Kunming. The meet, organized by the China International Development Cooperative Agency, is the latest Chinese initiative focusing on the Indian Ocean region, underlining Beijing's growing strategic interest in a region where its economic footprint has been deepening. What is the China's Indian Ocean Region Forum about? The CIDCA, which is China's new development aid agency, currently headed by the former Vice Foreign Minister Luo Zhaohui, said in a statement that the forum was the first high-level official development cooperation forum jointly held by China and the countries in the Indian Ocean region, and over 100 participants, including senior officials from 19 countries bordering the Indian Ocean, attended. The forum issued a joint press statement that noted China proposed to establish a marine disaster prevention and mitigation cooperation mechanism between China and countries in the Indian Ocean region, and all parties agreed to strengthen policy coordination, deepen development cooperation, increase resilience to shocks and disasters, and enhance relevant countries' capacities to obtain economic benefits through use of marine resources such as fisheries, renewable energy, tourism, and shipping in a sustainable way. Which countries have backed the forum? The organizers have said the forum was attended by high-level representatives and senior officials from 19 countries. These are Indonesia, Pakistan, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Maldives, Nepal, Afghanistan, Iran, Oman, South Africa, Kenya. ठीक है, फिर नेक्स्ट बोला कि चाइना टॉप डेवलपमेंट एड एजेंसी कन्वीन्ड, ये तो पढ़ लिया हमने, ठीक है। और कौन कौन सी है? तंजानिया, सेशल्स, मेडागास्कर, मॉरिशस, जिबौती एंड ऑस्ट्रेलिया। नेक्स्ट है, बट एट लीस्ट 2 of those countries, that is Australia and Maldives, subsequently released statements rebuting the claim, emphasizing that they did not participate officially. Former Australian Prime Minister Kevin Rudd and former Maldives President Mohammed Wahid Hassan were reported to have virtually joined the meeting, and both were attending in their individual capacities. The Maldives Foreign Ministry said that there was no official representation, stressing that participation by individuals did not constitute official representation. Australia's High Commissioner in Delhi, Barry O'Farrell, said in a post on Twitter that no Australian government official attended the coming China-Indian Ocean Forum on Development Cooperation. अब नेक्स्ट है कि where does India stand? New Delhi has viewed China's recent moves in the region warily, including the recent visit of the Chinese military tracking vessel, the Yuan Wang 5 to Sri Lanka. Moreover, India sees the Indian Ocean Rim Association as an already established platform of the region, which has 23 members including Australia and Maldives, with 10 dialogue partners which include China, Japan, Russia, UK and USA. This stepped up regional diplomacy comes while China is establishing a more frequent military presence in the waters of the Indian Ocean region. Beijing's first ever overseas military facility was set up in Djibouti near the Horn of Africa. Chinese military ships, tracking vessels, and submarines have been visiting ports in the region with greater frequency. Chinese military planners have previously said the PLA Navy, which earlier this year launched its 3rd aircraft carrier, has a long-term plan to deploy 6 aircraft carriers to secure China's maritime interests, and that 2 of them will be based in the Indian Ocean region. So 10th highlight पे next news है कि why has the RBI introduced an e-rupee? What are the central bank digital currencies, and are central banks introducing digital currencies to counter the influence of the cryptocurrencies? Will such a move increase the risk of the bank runs? So सबसे पहले आता है कि what is a digital currency? The digital rupee or the e-rupee is a central bank digital currency issued by the RBI. It is similar to the physical cash that you hold in your wallet, except that the e-rupee is held electronically in a digital wallet overseen by the RBI. The digital rupee is recognized as legal tender by the RBI and thus has to be accepted by everyone in the country as a medium of exchange. It is, however, different from deposits that you hold in a bank. Unlike deposits which are paid interest, the digital rupees in your wallet are not paid any interest by the central bank. Deposits held in the banks can be converted into digital rupees and vice versa. Is there a need for a digital rupee? The RBI believes that the digital rupee will make the rupee more attractive as a currency to users when compared to cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrencies have been viewed by many investors as alternatives to fiat currencies, which progressively lose value over time due to debasement by central banks. Since such a trend could threaten their sovereignty, central banks have been trying to come up with their own digital currencies. The RBI also believes that the digital rupee will be easier and more economical to produce when compared to physically cash notes. More importantly, transactions carried out using digital rupees, in contrast to physical transactions, are more easily traceable by authorities. What are the risks? The introduction of central bank digital currencies internationally has worried many who believed that it could disrupt the banking system. When interest rates offered by the banks are low, people may be more prone to converting their bank deposits into digital currencies, since they would not lose out much in the way of interest income by making the shift. Such an event could cause the cash holdings of the banks to drop and hinder banks' capacity to create loans. It should be noted that the ability of the banks to create loans is influenced by the amount of the cash they hold in their vaults. The cash position of the bank determines its ability to expand its loan book while keeping the risk of a bank run under control. The digital rupee could also play a crucial role in India's transition toward a cashless society. A rise in the use of digital rupee could eventually free banks from having to maintain sufficient cash deposits before they expand their loan books. This could happen if digital rupee deposits turn out to be considered equivalent to other forms of virtual money, such as deposits created initially as loans by banks. In such case, banks will be freed from the risk of the bank runs, which have traditionally served as a check on the unrestrained expansion of the loan books. What do the critics say? The critics are not so enthused by the idea of a digital rupee. They point to the power that digital currencies give central banks to supervise economic activity, and believe that this could act as a deterrent to economic growth if legitimate economic activities are deemed illegal by governments. The future of central bank digital currencies as an alternative to private cryptocurrencies may also be overblown. Private cryptocurrencies have found demand among certain investors, not simply because they are digital. Rather, they are thought to be better stores of value, exhibiting more stable purchasing power than fiat currencies. Next, Afghanistan is open for Indian investment, including urban areas. This is a message that Afghan Minister of the Urban Development communicated in a recent meeting with the Indian charge of the affairs in Kabul, said Shaheen, adding that the Taliban's Minister of Urban Development, Hamdullah Nomani. Next, investigators search for source of ransomware attack on AIM servers system, yet to be fully restored, as more damage is anticipated if it is linked to the internet. Attackers changed file extensions for all physical servers, over 11,000 computers to be scanned. In the latest rankings by the ICAO, मेरे ख्याल से इंडियन सिविल एविएशन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, इंटरनेशनल सिविल एविएशन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है मेरे ख्याल से, ये स्पेलिंग गलत होगी इसकी. India has jumped to the 40th place from the 102 spot in 2018. The ranking, which also places it ahead of China 49, is the highest ever received by India, officials say. This score, India score highest ever ranking in the aviation safety. Next, third highlight है Singapore's most recent amendment to its constitution to protect the heterosexual definition of marriage and prevent its constitutionality from being challenged in court has partly been justified by the ruling People's Action Party government by citing the increasingly liberal stance the Supreme Court of India has taken on issues of marriage and family structure since it decriminalized homosexuality in 2018. In the September statement, Mr. Shanmugam had said, "This is happening just a few years after the Indian Supreme Court also struck out their Section 377, which is similar to our 377A in 2018. Our courts have traditionally eschewed such an approach and have said that these matters should be dealt with in the Parliament. The constitutional amendments will seek to ensure that the amendment was passed by Singapore Parliament this week as a quid pro quo or to protect the institution of marriage while at the same time decriminalizing homosexual activity between consenting men. And while the decriminalization of gay sex has brought relief to activists in the country, the constitution amendment has once again raised concern over Parliament restricting courts' power to examine the constitutionality of certain issues. Next, the representatives of the 13 members of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries (OPEC), led by Riyadh, decided to stick to their course agreed in October of a production cut of 2 million barrels per day until the end of 2023. OPEC Plus described its October decision to cut as one which was purely driven by market considerations, adding that it had been the necessary and the right course of action to all weather allies. For OPEC Plus, the big unknown in the oil equation is how heavily the sanctions will hit Russian supply. Upwards stabilizing global oil markets. Indonesia का Mount Semeru volcano erupts, triggering top alert status. On Friday, the European Union, G7 and Australia agreed to a $60 per barrel price cap on Russian oil, which will come into effect on Monday or soon after, alongside an EU embargo on maritime deliveries of Russian crude oil. It will prevent seaborne shipments of Russian crude to the European Union, which account for two-thirds of the bloc's oil imports from Russia, an attempt to drive Moscow's war chest of billions of euros. While Russia denounced on Saturday the incoming price cap, threatening to suspect deliveries to any country that adopted the measure, Ukraine suggested the cap should have been set even lower. For OPEC Plus, the big unknown in the oil equation is how heavily sanctions will hit Russian supply.